All right. Peace, family. We are now live. Peace to the family out there. Brother Rich with the brother Rod Hayes. Let me know if you can hear me. We was having a little audio troubles before we came on live. So let me know if y'all can hear me, family. Want to make sure y'all can hear me before we get started. Make sure you share this video. It's important people see this video. This is going to be a very important message in this video. Make sure you share. Audio good? Okay. All right, let's get to a few ads and then we're going to get started. All right? We're going to go right in.
Hey there! Had a bad dream? I have dreams too. Some parts are scary and some parts are fun. Always remind yourself, it's only a dream and everything will be okay. I had a dream about being in a forest too. Check it out, my pet Petey was with me. Order your copy of Kayla Petey and the Forest on Amazon today.
It's King Simon, New Motivation Consultation. Make sure you text me 347-496-1022. Get all of my books on Amazon or go to linktree/King Simon, the New Motivator. And don't forget, I got a special, so make sure you book now. Text me right now. Peace. Cosmic 1910 alignment in Wilmington, Delaware on June the 19th with King Simon, Ellison Nedra, alongside Lloyd Strayhorn, all happening at Wilmington, Delaware, the Drop Squad Kitchen on June the 19th from 6 to 9 p.m. Text right now, 347-496-1022. Text for information now.
Family, I also want to give a shout out. Let me show this real quick. When I went to Stone Mountain, Red and Blue Pill, shout out to the brother that gave me this. A brother gifted me with this. This is a book he put together. And the brother did, him and his, I guess his brother did, they called the Day Brothers. They did such a superb job. And, my son is very much interested after seeing this. So I look forward to sharing this with my son. But I want to give him a shout out. Real good book. He also gave me a coloring and activity book. So I want y'all to support us that are able to channel such powerful knowledge. It's called Swords and Scales, Tales of Immortals, Origins, created by the Day Brothers. All right, family. Got to give that brother a big shout out. All right. Brother Rod, you can hear me, right?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right, so listen, before we get started today, such an interesting conversation. Today is actually the solar return of our dear brother, Tupac Amaru Shakur. Can you tell us about, you have such an interesting perspective on so many things. I mean, we could just listen to you talk all day. What can you tell us about what he represented to us, to the nation, to the tribe, his spirit, the Amaru? Talk to me about him, my brother, before we get started.
So when you talk in the spirit of Tupac Amaru, you talking about pure warrior energy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When he came with a mission. And the way that he moved, it wasn't like none of the other so-called entertainers. He moved entirely different. And he talked wind talker talk. So he flipped a lot of signs. He even mentioned in his music, talking in Swahili and different things that shows the background that he came from as a child of the Panther, Afeni Shakur. My mother was also affiliated with the Panthers back in the day, as with a lot of these other chiefs on the land, who we don't even recognize as chiefs because we don't know what was going on with the struggle to move us back into the positions of prominence. So we had to find ways to continue to be righteous, but at the same time fight an enemy that has no good in him whatsoever. And he was an example of that warrior spirit that has to be harnessed in the community, because if you don't harness it, it'll become destructive to the community and to the individual.
Indeed.
So from my position, I still see his signature in the way the energy move on the land, which tells me that he ain't gone.
Indeed.
Right. The same with Nip. I could see their energy and their influence when they move across the land. I know where they at. But that's because I know how to read the elements, and the elements, the wind, the stars, everything tells me what I'm looking at. It ain't just my naked eye. It's the extrapolation of multiple streams of data that converge on where in the hell is this individual at.
Okay. Yeah, your phone or your computer's making that noise. You know how you be going in and come back in?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we about to get started. I just don't want no yeah, no interruptions from the phone or the computer. So we about to go on heavy, y'all. We about to go on real heavy. You know? What's going on with y'all though? What y'all doing? All right, here we go. All right.
That better?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Much better. All right, so listen, such an interesting topic, Rod. Hey, so much misinformation on the computer. Things could be very confusing. I mean, it's abundance of things. People don't know whether people are lying or not, if things are mythology, if things are real. We heard about Atlantis, we heard about Lemuria. People are recently starting to hear about Tartaria and just so much things about these ancient civilizations, my brother. And I know you would be a great brother to touch on this. And I actually was interesting, Rod. I didn't tell you this when I talked to you on the phone. Before I called you to tell you about possibly doing a show on Tartaria, I was going to call you and talk to you about doing a show dealing with Saturn. But I decided to deal with Tartaria. Then when I called you and talked to you about that, you brought up Saturn in the conversation.
It's
So I was like, oh,
necessary.
yeah, I was like, oh, this shit, these are the signs right here. But literally, that was going to be our first topic that I run by you and say, yo, you want to build on Saturn? So listen, people think this shit is fake. People think, y'all freestyling. What is? We heard about Atlantis. Talk to me about Tartaria. Is that an offshoot of Atlantis? And then we'll get into the whole Saturn day, my brother. But what's going on with this ancient civilization, if it is ancient?
Yeah, so all of those are contemporary civilizations that preceded modern Egypt, right? So we talking Tartaria, we talking Lemuria, we talking Atlantis. But it's a one world civilization, and we talking regional control groups of the land. It's just like you got the United States, then you got Russia, then you got China, right? Now imagine if we didn't have no conflicts to erase the world wars and all that, war with arms race and turning the people into soldiers. Erase that out, and then the alliances that would build would be what we would call the ancient civilizations. Right? When you read and you go back, you will notice that they tell you that Atlantis had 10 circular cities that represented it.
Okay.
Right? Then you see that Lemuria is represented as a huge concentric ring city. Right? When they talk about Tartaria and Tartarus is what it's called in the biblical terms. So when you look it up in the Bible, it comes up as Tartarus. In the book of Enoch, he gives you what's called the topography of the land layout of Tartarus.
In the book of Enoch.
In the book of Enoch.
Okay.
Right? So when he's given the description, the only place on earth that would match that is buried under about a mile or so of ice. And we would call that Antarctica.
Back to Antarctica.
Right. The civilization that's frozen, that was flash frozen, the people can actually be thrown out using the same technology as throwing out a cryogenic frozen individual. That's ancient stellar science that's also written about around the world in the Vamana Sutras of India. And it talks about the flying craft called the Vimanas. And then it talk about the Vimanas wars. And this is what's the closing out of those great civilizations. Right? So then they tell you that man went through multiple civilization, type 4, type 3, type 2, type 1. Then they give you all this descriptive shit. So once you get to a certain point, you self-destruct. Right? That's not the norm. The self-destruction part in the annals of history is not normal.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, we dissolve civilizations and pull back technology in order to give a new generation of souls the opportunity to learn how to recreate from the ethers what's already in the ethers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So then you have to strip them back down to what we call Stone Age or Dark Age.
Mm-hmm.
And then step by step, like um building onto a building. You can't build the outside of the building before the frame,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you lay the framework foundation in building up the new soul in order for them to be able to reach their highest potential of expression in the physical form, right? So when you destroy the civilizations, that means that now the old souls that's already here, that's well educated in the system, they come back as educators, right? That's that old man that's an alcoholic on the corner that say the realest shit you ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
He done did this so many times that he don't really want to play the game, but he know he got something to offer that's so invaluable he won't kill himself,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is wired into the construct of the human genome. So when you learn to read your genetic memory, all this stuff starts to surface,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we all have a universal mind connection. So when I sit there ponder a question and the book pops into my mind, where did the book come from? I didn't even think about the book before I was thinking about the subject.
Mm-hmm.
So now I got to find it out, even if the book is real, coming to find out it's the real book that's the authority on the subject,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when we say Black's Law, people think we talking about a black man's law dictionary. And like the Negroes just got together one day and decided to write their own law,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Except they never told us that they looked like us, but they wasn't us,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you get to back to Atlanta, back to
Tartarian.
the South Pole
Yeah.
in the frozen civilization, they can tell you if they thought, well, they thought out one of them people. And that's why they know a lot of the stuff that they didn't know before, right? All of this energy shit supposed to be free, but they're making us pay for it, and it belongs to us because we the earthborn.
Mm-hmm.
They making us pay to use our own shit because we don't know no better.
Mm-hmm.
My mama said, when you know better, you got to do better.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm coming to tell y'all how to do better, right? Because there is no possible way I could have gathered all of this knowledge on my own without some type of guidance,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether it's internal or external. If it's internal, my internal guide is automatically know where to get all the information at,
Mm-hmm.
right? So these people that's under the ice, I don't know how many of them they thawed out, but I am aware that they did thaw out one, right? And that when they did, he was able to make them fold up using psychic energy alone, right? He needed to know what was going on, and they didn't want to tell him. You know how the system is. Officer, why you got me in here? We'll be back. But they don't play that shit. Their mind power is more developed than ours is. Because we coming off the ice age.
Is what they call global warming? Is that also what's going to unthaw these beings out that you're saying is frozen? Is that another
Well,
reason
they
why?
have to be thawed out by a process, or the process of them thawing out will kill them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very specific process. And the warming of the temperature that they call global warming is trackable using the sun cycle, moon cycle, ancient calendar,
Mm-hmm.
right? And coming out of the ice age, we leaving out of the moon cycle, going into the sun cycle. In the moon cycle, it gets cold enough to have an ice age.
Mm-hmm.
And in the sun cycle, it get hot enough to create deserts from lush forests, especially when man start whacking it down. They trying to make a Sahara Desert in South America, chopping down the rainforest, right? But that's how they suffocate the people. They change our oxygen reception, right? Because when we was breathing the double O molecule of oxygen called ozone, is when the atmosphere was to the ground, it was almost as thick as water, right? And we was breathing that double oxygen molecule, which was making us need to convert magnesium, copper in the blood as opposed to iron and copper. The iron was replaced using science, right? By altering certain codons on the DNA, the body will use what they call the soft metal over the hard metal by its adjustment. That's adjustable on the genome, right? And this is why we not green no more. Now, when the body is absorbing the ozone molecule, the double oxygen molecule, and it's using that in the conversion of the magnesium and copper, we get an aqua blue tint to our skin instead of a rusty red brown. Right? That's because that's when they say created man from the earth, altered the genome using the elements they found in the earth that was compatible with the species. Right? So when we talking about the ancient Tartarus, we talking about the continent that's covered in ice, right? But what do that got to do with Saturn? Because in the time that this comes about, where the space war, the Vimanus Wars took place, we didn't have no moon.
You said the Vimanus?
Vimanus Wars. That's what they call them in the Vimanus Sutras.
Okay.
Okay, so these was the great wars in which the great planet destroyer weapons called the Gandiva in India, right? They translated as planet destroyer out of the Sumerian text, right? And this is what caused the great explosion, and they calling that the Big Bang, but that was not the Big Bang. That wasn't the beginning. Right? Because that's traced back to a specific point in time where the earth was altered and the moon was put there as a guardian. The moon is a whole spaceship. It will leave and take off if it need to go on a defense mission that's that thick. And that's why they keep saying ain't nobody been to the moon. Right? Because they told them don't come up there. It ain't that they can't get there, but the people up there in the ship said don't bring your ass up here when they sent the satellite.
Who's they? Those
NASA.
People. No. Who told NASA don't bring your ass up here?
The people on that ship. The people that was on the ship. And their third eye is more pronounced than ours. You ever seen the picture of Mona Lisa, right? So you know that they gave that sarcophagus that she was in to those astronauts on the space station. The space station been there longer than they telling us. But what the work that was being done, all of them stories of Star Trek come from that shit.
Really?
Those are stories the CIA gave them, feeding them information through NASA, through astronauts and cosmonauts from Russia. They condense all of the stories because they have to put it in the public domain, and they pass it off to us as a fiction or a science fiction.
You know, Rod, you know how we always hear about how Hitler was tied in with aliens. Now I hear about Tartaria being a part of Russia. does Putin have, because Putin seemed like he's on that Hitler energy. Does he have any connection with some type of extraterrestrials or something to give for him to have that much power in that area right there?
Look, the Anunnaki is supporting both Donald J. Trump and they supporting and backing Vladimir Putin,
The Anunnaki.
the Anunnaki, the
Man,
Inky line.
this is some strange stuff, man.
Look, they already gave the report. The military intelligence officer gave the briefing when Inky's line of Anunnaki, because they the ones got to come back. Enlil line can't come back. And the ones that they left here got to get the fuck gone.
Really?
Right? So they already got permission, and that's already been put in the public domain. That Inky's family came to recover certain artifacts that they can't leave here. That's related to the mining of the gold. Right? And they also got to be the ones that come to collect the gold from Earth, because Enlil's contingents ain't allowed nowhere around here, or the Andromeda beings gonna zap their ass into oblivion because they the ones started this shit. So the moon, I don't know how long it's gonna be there. It might be there another 100,000 years, million years, I don't know. But it's a ship. Right? And a lot of the modern scientists is well aware, just from the math alone, that it has to be a ship. Right? In order for it to maintain a consistent orbit at that particular position, it's either got a guidance system, right? Or it have some form of intelligence to keep it in its position.
Right.
Otherwise, it wouldn't stay. Before that, what we called woman magic, moon magic, we was talking about Saturn magic.
Before moon magic.
Right, because it was no moon there.
Okay.
And that's why they didn't affect their cycle. They used to turn it on and turn it off when they wanted to have babies. Right? And they could do it all the way up into their hundreds, some of them up into 200 years old. Now, your body's so broke down at 40, how can you expect to carry your baby? Because of the poisons that they feeding us, toxins that they putting in the air, poison they putting in the water, GMOs, growth hormones, all this stuff that they giving us to shorten the lifespan. They already altered the actual genes itself in order to take back about 80% of what's called the sheath. Right? So now the sheaths only cover the 4 tips of the gene, when it used to cover the entire gene. That's when we lived in something called the forever time. Right? So when you read in ancient Egypt in the hieroglyphs, when it's talking about the time before there was kings, and they refer to it as the forever time, that's because we didn't have the time construct. The time construct is programmed through Metatron's cube using the Dark Knight satellite. Right? So the Dark Knight satellite has to work in conjunction with the moon in order to keep us in a stupor of time. Time is malleable when you are in control of your full self. That's why it's called the forever time. When you lose certain psychological faculties that you're not even aware you have because you've been deliberately miseducated, then most of us never go looking for those parts of the lost self. Right? And that's the great work. The great work is to build Solomon's temple. What is the Solomon's temple? It's the temple of man. What is the temple of man? A temple to house the soul. What is the soul? The soul of man. It's cyclic because we in a perpetual time loop. Right? So when they look for Hiram, the master, self-raised master, they telling him he can't come into the lodges because they've been infiltrated. He had to get his degrees and rites of passage to the throne off the fat of the land. Get it out the dirt.
Mm.
right? When that happens, that means that something went wrong that's really bad. And then they need somebody that's going to come in that can unscramble the fucking egg,
Right, right.
right? So they call on the person that can figure all this shit out, because all I'm going to do is reverse engineer everything until I find the anomaly,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So we look at two sides of the same coin as being in opposition, but I don't see it that way, right? Because how can two opposing things receive credit for the same invention? Somebody lying,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you go back and look at all of the inventions, you realize something ain't right. About a good 87% of the inventors come from the land,
Yeah.
right? So while I'm looking at this, they telling us Albert Einstein invented the atomic bomb. No, Albert Einstein didn't invent the atomic bomb. Albert Einstein cracked the relative theory that tells them what is required to split an atom. That's not enough to tell them how to create a bomb, because you have to now create a mechanism, a machine, a three-dimensional object that serves the function of splitting an atom, right? So who did? When they couldn't figure it out, they called on Lloyd Quartermain. Lloyd Quartermain bring his physicists into the Manhattan Project, and voila, all of a sudden they got Fat Boy and Little Boy, or whatever the hell their name was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they needed people that have what you call holographic projective vision that comes with being trained as an adept. You being trained how to use both sides of your brain as soon as possible. So now you can use the mathematical formula to draw the hologram of what it looked like. And then you, from the hologram, you create a sketch. And the sketch is called a diagram. So you see, you went from hollow to dia,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you go coming into the physical world. So you're going from a crystal view of everything to a one-sided view that's predicated upon something dying. So in the physical world, the rule is that everything living must die, right? And everything that died must return. That's the cycles of life, is what we call it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the story of the great father Osiris, right? When you read the story, you realize he got struck by his brother Set and he knocked out his eye. That's Enlil,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And it's symbolic to cutting off the use of half of his brain, right? So we talking the Conjure War causing a stroke. So you know, in the Conjure War, somebody gonna try to blow you up and cause you to have a stroke. That means they're gonna either attack you or your heir. If your heir is attacked, you have a stroke. If your heir is permanently corrupted, you have a stroke. Which side of your brain is the stroke tell you which one of your heirs it is.
Mm.
Right? That's all in the conjure. That's part of the Babylonian blood magic, ritual family magic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? But they don't teach this stuff openly. That's why we have to figure out ways to get the information out of the institutions that they blocked our faces out of.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And some people got to get the information hostile, left hand path.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And some people got to give the story righteous, the right hand path. Now, if you get stuck being overly righteous, you stuck to the right. If you get stuck being permanently wicked, you stuck to the left. And then if you're the last resort, they send you to what they call the bump straight to get bumped straight. And the bump straight is the straight bump that bumps straight across all of the bumps.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And those are metaphors for the teaching technique to raise higher consciousness without a person never knowing they being taught. So you aiding Mother Nature in the development of the best quality products of the species by influencing the growth by a series of punishment and release. The punishment and the misery, that's just the test. And the training is always easier than the test. Right?
Yeah.
And the test is always harder than the training.
Mhm.
But everything that's in the test was in the training.
Mhm.
And if you fall back on the training, then you pass every test.
You pass every test. I wanna get back to the Tartarians and the Saturn connection.
Mm-hmm.
Saturn is still, you know, so called in our solar system. So what made Tartarian fall? I mean, it's not like Saturn disappeared. When did the moon come in? Like what, the moon took over, it's blocking the light from Saturn from hitting
That's
this.
why you can used to be able to see Saturn clear as day in the night sky.
Okay.
It was big as hell. They have people that have genetic memory that's drawing pictures of looking at Saturn with no moon in the sky. But the rings wasn't always there.
Where the rings come from?
They making them now. They still making them.
They make who's they?
Aliens. Well, I don't know if you call them aliens. They're your ancestors.
But what's the purpose of making the rings of Saturn?
Long distance communication
Mm,
in reduced amount of time. They turning Saturn into a giant satellite.
mm. Damn,
It's,
man, this
so Saturn ends up becoming the biggest satellite ever made.
wow, in the universe.
Yep, by adding the rings to it. That
Wow.
way, Nibiru would be able to communicate with the inner Earth realm for navigational purposes. Because before they knocked us off our axis,
You know, I
because
think
they did right. So we're talking about what's causing this war, right? Because most of these planets used to be populated. Now most of them desolate, right? And one of the moons, I think it was Europa. When they came through the atmosphere, they bumped into the moon. Um, some of the debris that behind the tail of Nibiru, right? They are conscious of the debris tail because they can alter the ship where 98% to 99% of the debris don't come into the atmosphere because they can navigate it. It's not like spaceship Earth where it's not navigated the same, right? So theirs is driven with mind power and technology. Earth is driven with physics, light, and mathematics. It's a different system, but we can communicate across systems, right? So this is one of the reasons why when the Ice Age was the result of that war, it was a nuclear winter, right? And they say it killed off the dinosaurs. That was a whole different event and a whole different time frame. But because everything is cyclic, it runs in a circle, a spiral, right? Until we got caught in an infinity loop. And the infinity loops is what makes misery because you have two sides of a creation overlapping each other. And they're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to be free flowing on their own trajectory. They called it collapsing the fourth into the third. And this is why we need sleep. Right? Because you have to live in two worlds at the same time. And when one world is pulling on you, you can't stay away from the other one. Right? So when we wake up, we in the 3D world. We here. But we don't know how to navigate it because we don't know that this is a construct that we agreed on a long time ago. And we allowed the bad kids to come into the school and just take over. So now we just trying to put everything back in order, rearrange it the way that it's supposed to go. That means raise the matriarchy. If you put it the way it's supposed to go, it run how it's supposed to run.
Does the matriarchy get raised along with the raising of the energy of Saturn? Is that
Well,
are they
the raising
connected
of the
together?
energy of Saturn is a whole different phenomenon because what they doing with Saturn is turning into a communications network. So imagine the internet on steroids,
Yeah.
rapid internet exchange, 3,600 light years away, right? So now you can get 30 when Nibiru is at its furthest orbit. Now you will be able to directly communicate with the elders, right? But it's not going to be the same as like Facebook. It's not going to be like that. The system will be different, but it'll be using pretty much the same principles. And Saturn is the satellite for the communication based off the materials it's made out of. It's the one that they felt was most conducive for relaying massive amounts of energy. So that would lead me to believe there must be a high silica content on Saturn in order to insulate the rest of the metals from the rapid exchange of energy to because the amount of energy required to have instant communication with somebody 3,600 light years away is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we're talking about enough energy to run the earth 1,000 times, 1,000 times, 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's 1,000 to the third power. That's a lot of earths.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so the power source is the energy, the field that is made of. It doesn't. It's almost like clean energy, like perpetual energy. There's so much stuff like the symbol behind you. It looked like it's just a symbol of the sun, but it's so much being told with the imagery and that went into that formulation because that is also an ancient depiction. It might be done in modern art, but it's still in the subconscious of the psyche, the collective and universal mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we used to read with pictures before we ever start using words.
So what would this be an ancient depiction of? If you know.
It's a flow of energy, a type of energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's this in this case, the solar flare energy is what this is projecting behind you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the wavy parts is radiation, and the straight parts is straight UVBs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they're separating the types of radiant energies projected from the sun using the straight line or the crooked
Kurt.
line.
Wow.
Right? So that's just telling you, okay, so you got multiple different streams of energy coming into the earth. All of them carry data.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then the earth at the close of the age is going through another system in what we call a bigger clock, a galactic clock. So it looked like the earth about to go through a giant donut. If you can like imagine that in your mind of energy. And when it go through this donut, it's supposed to be struck with a very particular strain of radiation. And this is what they call the Great Awakening.
Mm-hmm.
We moving closer to that energy field. And as Nibiru get closer to us, because they gonna have to use a lot of psychic energy to help some of the newer souls not break down. Right. So and it's just the structure. We all of those ancient civilizations been here. Right. We done went through a whole lot of different names at different times.
Mm-hmm.
right? Tartaria being written on the map where Russia is would be anatomically correct if the map was in its proper position. So put something over the map, circle where Tartaria is on Russia, then turn your map over and put it in the same spot it would be in Russia, and you'll find it's Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want us to know where all of the real action is taking place at right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they giving us misdirection like David Copperfield at a magic show.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So you keep the neophytes, the newcomers, the nosy people all chasing false leads.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not going to be able to figure out where the real lead is and where the false lead in. And that's why they try to tie everything to some false information so that at any given time we can debunk it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because all you got to do is debunk the false part.
Right.
And they're going to assume that that's it. It's the end of it. That story been debunked.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that's not how the information flow.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody lied to you, they had to know the truth.
Right.
And if they knew the truth got to be concealed by the lie itself.
By the lie, yeah.
So analyze the lie and to tell you the truth. It's a mirror flip.
Mirror flip. What a two-part question, my brother. What you talked about data coming through the sun to the earth. Is this heat wave we're experiencing right now? Is this bringing heavy amounts of data? That's the first question. The second part of the question is, it appears that we've been taught that the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. It looks like the sun is switching position, is moving, is not rising exactly in the east like how it rises.
Well, that's because you're looking at the magnetic force of another object, probably 3 times the size of the sun, getting closer to it. It's going to change the position of the planets and the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so what was the first part you asked me?
Is this heat wave bringing heavy amounts of data to us?
Okay, now that part is critical because that's why I want you to ask the question again.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we know about the changing of the DNA,
Mm-hmm.
everything we know about it, the only way the DNA changes on its own without man's intervention is through the solar rays.
Mm-hmm.
The different radiations the sun puts out causes the DNA to react. This is proven through science time and time again. They even attribute it to the Darwinian form of evolution as one of the things that caused the genome to change suddenly is the incumbent rays of light from the sun. So we know the sun tell our DNA at what level we should be at. Right? So we had to, that's what you call getting it straight from the source. Right? Because Big Mama created the light out of the triple darkness, and from the light she gives the instructions to the ones that's blind. How else you gonna see?
Powerful. Yes, sir.
Right? So the goal is to learn how to read the information coming in on the sun, which is totally readable, but you got to know how the ticker work on the matrix, the streamers. Once you know what causes the streamer to move into position, when they reverse position, you'll know why. This has to be happening in order for this to take place.
Ooh.
It's the same. You just don't see it the same in the world. Right? So they say in order for America to fall, somebody had to figure out something about America where it can no longer stay. We figured out it was a legal fiction. That's enough reason. It was a corporation operating with assumed jurisdiction. Well, they assume wrong. So that means that if we figure out how to get them out of here without using their shit, we can change it. All this is coming from data. and analysis of data. And the sun going to give you information that's going to give you access to higher levels of information. It's going to make your DNA request certain stuff. Right? We all stardust, but we all in different proportions of it. That's why we not all cookie cutters. That's why everything is not the same for everybody. We got to each have individual experience in order to even make the knowledge exchange of any use between us. Right? So I got to be able to experience and go through something that you don't in order to tell you why you don't want to go through it. Right? It's the learning process, and this all life really is. It's the university of life. Right? So when we learn the desecration of the divine feminine has caused us to be in a state of perpetual unrest in the community. The divine feminine was usurped approximately the time they replaced it with the moon. That's the Lilith being replaced by Eve story. Because Lilith represents Saturn as the dark mother. Right? And that's why certain moon magic is strongest when the earth entirely blocks the sun's light from hitting the moon. Because now you can get straight Saturn energy. That's straight Big Mama energy. So the women learn how to balance it and to use the energy. They use their menstrual cycle to tell them at what time of the month can they use the combination of the blocking energy of the moon and the manifesting energies of Saturn.
Our people scared the hell of Saturn, right? They scared like a Mars, Saturn. We done got they scared the shit out of us about Saturn, man. I mean, conscious folks, conscious folks scared of Saturn.
Right, they scared the shit of us about Medusa. That's because we don't know nothing about what they're talking about. But there's access to the information in your own genome. By going through a series of erudition and training, you learn by practicing certain techniques how to tap into that energy. Then you don't need nobody to tell you nothing, and I can go somewhere and lay my ass down.
Yo, right. Somebody posed a question that I actually had the question I gotta ask, because you talked about the moon being a spaceship and the Saturn energy being replaced by the moon energy. If the moon is a spaceship, how does that affect astrology? Because people do rituals all the time when the moon is full, when the moon is new.
Look, our ancestors, astrology came from us.
Yeah.
The Oracle sisters was the ones who used to keep the record books called ephemeris. And they was the ones who knew how, when the moon was put there, how to use the energy for moon magic. Right? They never expected that. So when they incorporated the moon into astrology and astronomy, they also gave us a way to read that energy and harness that energy and tell us how to use it.
Rod, real quick, I'm sorry, my brother. My son.
No, you good? You good?
Let me just show my son. My son want to show himself. Say hi.
What's going on, little fella?
All right, time to go. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
See you later.
He just popped into the room. All right, get out. Daddy working right now. I get it, Rod. I'm sorry, but he popped in. But yeah, get it, my brother. Right.
So when the sisters was keeping record, they made adjustments. That's why this shit even worked. All of those calculations been made thousands of years ago. The moon didn't just pull up yesterday. It's been there a while.
Right.
And everything they use to oppress us, we figure out how to use it as a come up, including the moon. So the sisters, when they incorporated into the zodiac system, they knew how to use that energy at that point, or they wouldn't have put it in there. And then when it came a point where we would have came to power on Earth and blew that bitch out the sky. Right? But we didn't do that when we came to power or when we woke up from the slumber, because we realized we can use that energy too.
Right, right, right.
Right? It's the same as when they put crack in our community. It also made some of us rich.
Mm.
Some of us filthy rich.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some of us rich enough to train the prince how to behave like a king when he grow up.
Mm.
Right? But they don't want to look at that it wasn't all bad, just like it wasn't all good.
Mm.
You know? If we'd have knew back then what crack did, we would have had a contingency in place for when it came.
Mm.
But we didn't know what it was going to do.
Mm.
So we had to learn in real time. But they had already experimented on hostages and different shit to know how that shit was going to work.
Mm-hmm.
CIA been knew
Mm-hmm.
what crack does.
Mm-hmm.
What they call it, purified cocaine. It's in the MK Ultra files. They know what it does. So they had did the experiment long before they unleashed it in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We had to figure out how to use it to our advantage, because they using it to destroy us.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing we can figure out of it is make money, because if we don't, they gonna make it all.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we turned it into a millionaire factory.
Mm-hmm.
More people became millionaires in the crack era than in the last 100 years combined before it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people was made miserable by it, because that was its original intent. And some of the people that came from up under the addiction has became the best counselors, the best educators about the substance,
Mm-hmm.
what it do to a family. They've been the best social workers to help people to get off that shit, because they was there already. They already know what it's like, and they know what it takes to get off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How I'm gonna tell you how to change a flat and I ain't never changed one?
Facts, yeah.
I could tell you a theory, but the motherfucker that went through the fire can tell you how to burn feel. The one who was looking at the fire, all he can really tell you is that shit was hot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? But the one who went through the fire can tell you what the pain felt like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? They can tell it to you from the inside out, because they was the one getting burned.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We talking about forming a higher quality of human by putting them through the most torment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? And so we get treated like black sheep until they realize that you're supposed to treat them like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because they wouldn't have been strong enough to take the lead when they became the elder if you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we got a whole new group of elders, black men. We the elders now.
Indeed, indeed. I want to ask you about this Big Mama energy. You equated it to the Saturn energy, and when we think about the religions in the world, and you think about the so-called Jews and the hats that they wear that looks like Saturn, and the day that they celebrate the Sabbath is on a Saturn day. Do you think because
They
they're
are harnessing the energy because they know what
that's
it is.
that's what I was about.
And as
Now,
long as you don't know what it is, they gonna keep harnessing it right in your face, using it against you to their advantage.
mm.
And you can't be mad at them for that, because they did their homework and you didn't.
So Big Mama doesn't discriminate. She go to whoever calls her. She's not
Look,
saying no. I'm not going to y'all. She's going to whoever's calling her.
how many big mamas you've seen breastfeeding as mammies?
Mm.
They could have starved every one of them motherfuckers to death. She never hold a blank slate responsible for the full clip.
Damn.
Right? He got a chance to grow up. He might be the pale face that we could send behind enemy lines.
Right.
Right? Because he might have that affection for his mammy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you gotta do is watch the slave movies and what you see happening. You can say whatever you want to the rest of these niggers. You don't talk like that to my mammy.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespecting Big Mama. I don't give a fuck what condition you come from.
Mm-hmm.
They understand matriarchy too. And when Big Mama don't discriminate, it's because that's a human condition. Only
Discrimination.
humans discriminate.
Discriminate.
Gods don't discriminate.
Hmm.
Right?
It's,
The human gotta always find something to make me better than you.
it's a hell of a show, brother.
But the gods say, shit, I'm good enough as I am.
Hmm.
I am that I am. If I ain't good enough for you, then you good enough to get the fuck out my face.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
Anything that want to exalt themselves above you, you trample that shit down.
Hmm.
But anybody that try to make themselves less than you, you pick them up.
Okay.
Right? That's God thinking. That's not
Let's
man.
go.
Humans don't think like that. Kill his babies because they gonna grow up to kill man. But when we went to Vietnam, we found out that shit ain't true.
Hmm.
You want to be able to trust the motherfucker next to you in the combat zone, no matter what the fuck he look like. You ain't got time to be talking about I don't talk to niggers and you got a motherfucker look like me or you sitting next to him. He at war. He
Hmm.
know that if I don't cover his ass when these Viet Cong come to get him, he ain't got no cover.
Hmm.
And you know how they found out that? By Stokely Carmichael going over there talking to Uncle Hope. See, they already knew they didn't want to kill us. And so Stokely went over there and they told him, tell your brothers we not shooting at them. We shooting at the pale face.
Hmm.
So when the po white trash that was sitting next to the nigga realized that them uppity Negroes and the motherfuckers up there in the DC don't give a fuck which one of them died, long as one come back in the body bag, that's when they started to realize we got to do something about this condition.
Hmm.
Because once you've been through war with somebody that don't look like you can't discriminate no more.
Hmm. Hmm.
But if you ain't never been had John Brown standing next to you, of course, looking back on the lies they told us in history, you want all them motherfuckers dead. Been there, done that,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? That's not true. The white man ain't even white.
Hmm.
White privilege is predicated upon being a free white person in law. And them motherfuckers in their gated communities that look like me and you, that got all the goddamn money in the world, literally,
Hmm.
sequestered. Because they not allowed to keep it once we discover that they got it. But they can hold us and keep us from it as long as we don't know.
Hmm.
Right? They don't get no more extensions. Because I told their ass, I know who you is, where you at, put your ass on blast. So now, when they using the Saturnian robes of the judge, that robe that the judge wear was only supposed to be worn by the Black Madonna. The
Hmm.
Black Madonna's official seat hang 30 feet over the Pope because no man ain't allowed to sit in it. If you pull the picture of the Pope up, you'll see her seat sitting up there. That's the seat of the Black Madonna, who they bow to and kiss her feet on the paintings. Because they know the energy she represents, and that as long as they tell us what they doing, she can't get mad at them for you being an idiot.
Hmm.
That's why they keep telling you ignorance of the law is no excuse. You can remain ignorant and continuously suffer under the same oppressor. Or one motherfucker can wise up and say, I ain't playing that dirty ass game. And take your ball and go home.
Hmm.
Everybody want to keep playing their game, but complain about their rulership. You can't have it both ways. You either gonna be a complainer or you gonna do something about it.
Hmm.
Right? If you don't want to do something about it, then don't tear down the people that's doing something about it and stop complaining.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? And if you don't know what to do, shut your mouth until you figure out what to do. That's
Right.
basic common sense.
Right. I'm curious. What do you think about us talking about Saturn and the moon being a spaceship and Star Wars and this advanced internet communication? What's your thoughts on crop circles? Is that like an advanced form of communication? What's your thoughts
That's
on crop?
primitive as fuck.
Crop circles.
It's one of the it's a talking in symbolism.
Mm,
Remember, before we started writing words, we wrote in pictures.
mm,
And the crop circles is just images. They can actually be read. It's an actual um geometry to each one of the dimensions that tell you what it means.
mm,
Then you look at the longitude and latitude, all that's a message,
mm,
right? Even the hoaxers, when they be doing a little fake crop circles so they can debunk the crop circle,
mm,
they even creating a response and don't even know it with their dumb ass,
Crazy.
right? So they trying to use it for deception, but they keep communicating with the motherfuckers that's making them, giving back an answer, and they don't even know what the fuck they answering.
Wow. Wow.
Trying to do some slick shit.
Wow. Man, I'm gonna get. We gonna get to some Q&A real quick, Rod. I want to thank the individual for donating, and I want to use this time to put your Cash App on the screen for those who may want to donate. Let me just write that. Hold up. Hey. It's I should remember by now. It's SIK 8, right?
Yeah. The S and the A are the only capitals.
SIKAPE 6 8. All right, that should be it, family. Make sure you support my brother Rod Hayes. For those who are asking about donations, and also you make sure you support the channel Black Magic 363. Give me some questions, family. We're now going to this has been wild, man. This show, whew, it's powerful, family. I mean, there wasn't no break in the conversation at all, family. Give me some good questions. We're going to go to the Q&A segment. Make sure you support the brothers Rod Hayes, Cash App, $ SIKAPE. All right. I see some questions here. All right. Thoughts on Galactic Federation? Is it real?
Yeah, the Galactic Federation real. As a matter of fact, they were stationed in Antarctica while we on the topic. And they did take the chiefs to see them. But they didn't take them to Antarctica to see them. They met them at Raven Rock in Colorado, Raven Rock and Cheyenne Mountain. When the Galactic Federation give the clear, the Crystal City is going to land Emerald Lake in Colorado.
Is Brother Rod familiar with the tunnels in Antarctica or maybe Alaska?
It's both places have tunnels. You got pyramids in Alaska. One of the oldest and the largest is the Black Pyramid of Alaska. And they also had a military base up there that and they was using that portal to isolate in 3 points from La Palma. When the Army Corps of Engineers was trying to stop it from going off, they was trying to stall to close the Stargate. Right? So all of that's connected. Antarctica is not just tunnels. The tunnels is when they cleared out the cities that was under the ice. It was a metropolis down there. It's a city probably about the size of Chicago, New York, and LA put together in one city. It's just one huge city. It was a huge spread over a lot of acreage. And there was a lot of bustling business going on. It was people going to work doing different tasks for the community. It was huge. And people came from all over the world to work there.
How does all what's happening now tie into the holy tablets in the date 2030?
Well, Malachi will be telling y'all more about that pretty soon, because when you see the three kings, he gonna be with them. But the holy tablets got the story of a lot of this stuff I'm talking about is in the holy tablets. The wars where the earth was crashed, That's in the Holy Tablets too, which comes from the Sumerian and biblical and Quranic information, tracing it all the way back to its root.
Okay. What is the difference between archons and Anunnakis?
Okay, they can be a archon and be an Anunnaki. Archon is a rank of rulership. So it's like saying a chief,
Mm,
right? Or a leader of a group of soldiers or something. Anunnaki is those who Anu sent to Earth, right? And they came in different family groups. The first family came was the families of Enki and Inanna. And then Enlil came later and wanted to take over because he thought Enki was having too much fun and wasn't performing enough labor to produce enough gold to sustain Nibiru. So he wanted to take command because he outranked him by his mother's rank as the first wife of Anu. So he outranked Enki, so he pulled rank. Enki was a scientist, Enlil was a warlord. But he ain't shit without his sons, I tell you that. I be trying to piss that nigga off every chance I get. I hope he be listening to me.
oh man.
But if it
Uh,
wasn't for Marduk and Ninderson, he wouldn't be shit.
how does planet Sirius play into all of this?
Sirius is not just the planet; it's the star system. Sirius is tied to the Nomos, who were a group of benevolent reptilians that came to Earth. Those were the Dogon's ancestors.
Mm,
And they came along with the Galactic Federation thousands of years ago under a different contract. And that's why they don't like to leave their community. Their contract that they came here under is to live one with the universe. Enlil didn't come, he the only one didn't come, excuse me. He the only one that didn't come to Earth with a contract to live in harmony with the environment.
mm,
And that's why his impact is so devastating to the Earth. He came and pulled rank on the ones who were in harmony with Earth. He went and turned it into a military conquest as opposed to following the galactic rules of the universe. And then he ran into Enki's son, Ninigajita, aka Thoth, Tahuti, and realized that that was a bad mistake because he's going to end up losing everything. And he lost.
mm,
Go fuck him.
mm. Mona Lisa, you've been spamming the comment section. Please don't do that, Mona. But I'm gonna ask you a question. Ask Rod about 31 million tons of gold in Uganda.
The
Have you-
31 million tons of gold is not a new deposit. What do you want to know about it? It's obvious that it's there. They got pictures of it. They got the test back. They already knew it's there. They been knew it was there. They just didn't allow the people of Uganda to have access to it because they was in a warlock. The same as they got iridium on Haiti that the people from Haiti can't access because they in a warlock. All of the countries is closing they what you call war conjures.
Mm,
And when the war conjure closed, the sweet water returns. Oshun energy. Abundance, love, and compassion for the children is the Oshun energy.
mm,
Right? So they experienced it because they must have closed their major conjure. Haiti, the last ones left. They think this shit is a joke. They keep laughing because they following the lies that their masters told them. Right? And
mm,
they using their positions of power to live off the oppression of the people. So they can be comfortable at the expense of their populace. But until the priestess who laid down their life for the Haitian Revolution is properly honored, they gonna keep suffering because them greedy motherfuckers in the positions of power is maintaining the suffering
mm,
because they know what the solution to the problem is, but they would rather live temporarily comfortable than have Haiti be eternally free. Them the problem. Those are motherfuckers that look like us. That's not us.
mm,
See, I had the same option, but I fuck that shit. I want my sisters to have their shit first.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because my mama said don't let nobody take nothing from your brothers or your sisters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when I fight for my sisters, I'm fighting for my brothers. And when I'm fighting for my brothers, I'm fighting for my sisters. Right? And I know if I don't have to have anything, if I make sure that my brothers and sisters straight, they gonna make sure I'm straight. That's how we rock.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
Right? So like I was saying, all the knowledge I got, my sister and my oldest brother bought all them damn books.
Mm.
Right? My other brother, who is a Moor, introduced me to Malachi.
Mm.
Right? So when we exchange information among us, we exchange energy, love, money, whatever it is, right? If I can do it for one of my siblings, I'm gonna do it, and we have to ask.
Mm.
If I can't do it, I just can't do it. They already know that if I could, I would.
Indeed. Are
That's the bond we're trying to get back with the people.
indeed. Are the Capitol buildings in the U.S. Tartarian architecture?
When
That's
you
what they
hear
say
the
on the
term
internet.
Tartarian architecture, that just means ancient. It's a lot of ancient buildings all over the world that it's from earlier civilizations, right? Atlantis is old as hell. It's probably the oldest one that we can think back to, but it wasn't first. The first civilizations of Earth don't even have names
Mm.
because the people didn't use those terminologies. They didn't require names to communicate.
Mm.
Nouns, verbs, that wasn't part of, they didn't have parts of speech and parts of language.
Mm.
They was all telepathically connected. So they didn't need to tell each other nothing verbally.
Mm.
It was all communicated telepathically. So there's no written record of it, right? And even in the fossil remains, they find different stuff in the fossil remains. Okay, well, it still doesn't change the fact that the oldest known species of any species has all been female. And then not until you get to a certain point do you ever even start to discover males. That means that the earth was female populated by female entities first. Now, when you trace back, like if you listen to Cradle of Mutuwa, he'd take you all the way back to when this was taught in the priesthood. The priests know it, the ones that's real priests. And the real priests laugh at religious priests because religious priests teach conjecture as fact, and the world fall for it.
All right, let's get to the next question. They got a lot of questions here, man. Is Enlil incarnated on Earth now?
Nope. The last time he was here, he was in Africa under the name of Maitreya with a lady named Mary, performing miracles. That's not miracles, it's science that he know how. That's just the sciences that he know how to manipulate energy where to look like you making miracles, but you really not. You just bending the laws of physics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Aren't the canyons in the West ancient castles or giant tree stumps?
Um, it's more like a complex of different things. You had ziggurat, pyramid, um, and it was all at one time filled with water, right? And that's how Atlantean civilizations use water as a conductor of psychic energy. So a lot of cities was built on top of water. That's why a lot of the history is missing.
Mm. How does Saturn going retrograde tie into tonight's topic?
It might be a prime motivator because Saturn want to be heard, aka Lilith, the big sister who is the dark mother, who operates on behalf of Big Mama.
Mm.
And she the one get to wield Big Mama's sword.
Mm.
We talking about Kali Ma Sekhmet energy. right? When she's in a rampage. When she's in retrograde, that means she's retreating from the battle. Because she coming straight for you, but when she in retrograde, she retreating from the battle.
Is the draconian laws connected to the draconians?
Directly.
Hmm.
Directly. Now you got to remember, the Draconians is the backup that Enlil called. They was dragon people, or what we call reptilian extreme,
Like
box
real
head
dragons?
lizards.
Like
Yeah,
dragons, dragon?
they had they got legs like us, but only they females had wings. The queens of their hives. She the only one had wings where she could fly. The rest of them was like termites that was stuck to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they had to travel the ground to do her bidding, but she could fly. Right? We call her the Lizard Queen. She's under the Vatican. Her symbol, the Pope sits in front of sometime. It's her under the Vatican. Because she was living under the Vatican because she wasn't allowed above the Vatican because you can't tell her genitalia is not male. So if she sat in the ISIS seat, it would cause a disruption because she didn't have the birthright through the mitochondria.
Mm-hmm.
That's smart technology on steroids, by the way. It can read the DNA of the person sitting there, and if they don't have the right coding, it will definitely fry their ass like they're in an electric chair.
Wow.
And that's why they keep it suspended.
What do you think about them dead cows? I don't know if you've seen on social media.
All GMO has to go. Anything that was used to poison us before in our food sources, if it's the bovine growth hormone induced beef stock, it gotta go. They already was getting rid of the pork 2 years ago. They was burning the crops and killing the chickens after that. So if you're not watching what's going on, you won't know that, because all of that GMO shit, they killed off the bison in order to starve us to death and kill us with food. The bison is the red meat we supposed to eat. If we eat meat. All of us didn't eat meat, but all of us wasn't vegan either. Because the plants is just as alive as any cow or any
they are. Yeah, they
pig or any chicken. The plants is equally alive. All that stuff is living. Right? I be hearing them on there talking about if you're a meat eater, how come you don't eat it like raw? That's savage. The cultivation, the culinary arts is incorporated into our development for a reason. When you cook food, any kind of food, you're making a fucking potion. So if you ain't cooking healthy food with the intent to heal, then you cooking poison. Period. And most of the fast food is put together, it has no intent. Has no regard for your well-being one way or the other. It just got to feed you to keep you alive. And that's all it is just to keep you alive long enough to break down.
So intent is a major ingredient with cooking food.
Yeah, that's the difference in regular food and soul food. Soul food is infused with the love of the person that's cooking it. That's why we all hear our mamas and our grandmamas talking about, I ain't gonna eat no anybody cooking. And it ain't got nothing to do with, like, some of the people that cook might not be as clean as you think they should, but mama eat her food. Right? Whereas some of the people that just clean as hell, mama won't touch her shit. And then you find out the differences in how they write their frequency. The wrong frequency, mama not eating there because it's going to make mama sick one way or another. And she already know this by instinct. She don't need nobody to tell her. She going to tell you, when we go over here, you better not ask for nothing to eat. Don't touch nothing. Sit your butt down. Don't smell nothing. Don't hear nothing. Don't see nothing. Okay, mama. Food be smelling good as hell. You look over at her, you look at that kitchen, she cut them eyes at you. You know, no, we not eating the hell. Oh, I'm not hungry, Miss Johnson.
Oh man.
Stomach be talking about robber, robber, robber.
Talking to you, right? Stomach be talking. Ah, shit. I know what you're talking about. What can you tell us? We're gonna take about 4 more questions, then we're gonna get out of here, family. What can you tell us about the Ark of the Covenant?
They moved it from Ethiopia, where it had been most of its life. All it is a radio transmitter. But they moved it from Ethiopia into modern day Israel, and now it's somewhere in the States. I don't know exactly where, but it's somewhere in the States.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Somebody said, did Marduk come back during Nelson Mandela's funeral in 2013?
Marduk just left within the last year. He'd been here, but he wasn't at running around like people think. But he'd been here a long time,
Mm.
and he was ready to go home.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Damn, I just seen a question I want to ask. Okay. What are the beings doing on the spacecrafts that fly above?
Those spacecrafts, those they like an airplane, so to speak. They got amenities on them. You know, they be sitting back. They got their game systems like you do down here. They just be doing what we be doing, just on another schematic of brainwave. You know, the
Mm,
ones who fly the ship, all he have to do is use his mind. Is use mental power as the navigator,
mm, mm,
right? So those who are tested that can think the fastest is normally made pilots, right? So your response time to or your hand-eye coordination, right? So you know already he's gonna be a good athlete because he's born with good hand-eye coordination, good muscle tone, and good muscle memory, good muscle response. Same thing. They just do different stuff on them. You got different kinds of ships too. You got some just like party boats.
right.
One of them cigar shaped craft. Y'all be thinking that they be trying to they be up there having a whole fucking party and we the
Mm.
fucking attractions that they looking at like they at the zoo.
Oh man, it be like that, huh?
Yep.
Oh man. Did Inky have children?
Yeah, he had a lot of children. He was a effing mother. He
I
was a
remember you said
stud.
that. Oh man. Can you speak on the land of gold in America?
America is the land of gold. It's the land of milk and honey. This is the land of Tahuti. The ones who wore the feathers, because they didn't believe that the gold should be worn as adornments. They will use the gold to trade with Anunnaki.
Mm,
And they wore the feathers because they prized Mother Nature. The feathers represent different colors, represents different clans, right? And then omens come in the forms of feathers. And young boys start collecting feathers. And when they get to a certain age, they aunties, mamas, and whoever's would collect them and make them a headdress or a sash or whatever the tribal custom was,
mm,
right? And on the high chiefs had enormous headgear that flowed down to represent the great thunderbird. So when we talk about God's country, this is who they talking about, Tahuti. They talking about the only motherfucker the Anunnaki terrified of. So he rubbed that shit in every chance he get. That he kicked their ass and the Galactic Council told them they had to go for coming down here fucking with peaceful people that was minding their own business, talking about some goddamn gold.
mm.
Right?
Oh,
But
good, good.
yeah, but the compromise had to be made,
Mm,
right? Because the Galactic Council didn't want to take sides, just like Big Mama told them not to.
right.
We had to come up with an agreement that worked for Anunnaki and humans. And the only agreement that work is every 3,600 years, we get y'all to go and y'all give us the newest technology y'all discover for us to use for our own advancement purposes. And that's the trade-off. There's no other trade viable.
Mm,
So gold is going to maintain its value as a center field of trade because of the amount that has to be harvested. As long as we on Earth, gold gonna be here because gold is a side effect of our presence on Earth. That's why they call us the golden ones.
I remember you said that. Could you explain that process? How is gold a side effect of us being here? You said that before.
Yeah. So when the luminescence, the light comes in through the golden ones and hits the core of the Earth, the residual is caught as gold in the strata of the Earth. It's
Mm,
the vibrational frequency of our presence. But all of the platinum group metals are different levels of human development,
mm,
right? So you got the iridium, you have the silver, the platinum, the gold. They all are different levels,
mm,
and they are all produced according to the amount of us that's on the earth that represent that metal.
mm.
And the oil is a side effect of Enlil kids being here.
So wait. So gold is a side effect of us being here,
Of
and
Enlil's kids being here. Oh, gold is us.
is us, and oil is Enlil's kids.
Right. And they produce some shit. We call it black goo.
Black goo.
Black goo is used to clog your chakras. It's it's like a 3.5 dimensional element. It don't all the way come into the fifth dimension until it turn into oil. It turn into oil is sludge.
Mm,
And that's why it's called black gold. It's the basis of carbon,
mm,
right? It's raw carbon. That's because their energy is pure chaos.
mm,
And the pure chaos energy is 666 in a molecular form, melanin. If you don't have the gold light in you, then you won't be able to contribute to the production of the gold in the earth,
mm,
right? The same with the silver. The silver was tied to the silver core, gold to the gold core, right? The platinum group, the group metal of platinum. Platinum is the hardest of the metals, which is the ones that represent the most stubborn of energies, fixed position energies. Where gold is the most malleable. You can smash it with your fingers, right? That's because we most flexible. We're going to try to make a way to work with the least amount of resistance. That's the property of gold.
mm. Man, I know y'all enjoying this show. Man, oh man. We gonna take two more, then we getting out of here, family. Two more, then we get out of here.
Yes.
Are there scientists on the moon capturing souls and washing out their memories as they leave 3D?
That's not how it works. When you leave 3D, you have to be totally informed of everything you ever did. So you can determine if you want to come back or not, if it was your fault or not, if you fell victim to something else, whatever. Your life, you have to revisit your entire life in order to leave here in the first place. That's why everybody that have a near-death experience say what? My life flashed before
Yeah,
my eyes.
yeah, yeah.
You have to have the review. Those who are wise enough to review their life while they are in a waking state kills the ego, and they are the ones that move into the higher realms of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But it don't matter what topic you study, you're going to end up in some form of quantum mechanics, quantum physics, metaphysics, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Every religion or spiritual system going to culminate in an occult doctrine that's the core of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you start tracing it back, when you in the church, you end up at Templars and Rosicrucians. When you in the mosque, you end up at Sufis and dervishes. When you in Buddhism, you end up with monks and lamas, and when you in China, you end up with monks and masters of monasteries.
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you have to get to that level of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Your devotion into your life this time, you can build pre-karma to have a strictly hedonistic life with no negative side effects in your next life.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't like the way your life is in this life, you can readjust it by retraining yourself to learn something different. And most people don't want to do that because they get comfortable. They don't like to upset their comfort zone. And especially those that's under the heavier, denser metals like platinum, because that makes them very hard to move. They don't want to move.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's that fixed position energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Last question, family. How can you tell the difference between Inky and Enlil's children?
Inky's children love to have a good time, laugh. They love to be the life of the party, the center of attention. They always trying to kiss and hug on folks. You know, that's their nature. That's just how they is. Enlil's children is reclusive. They don't like the spotlight. They always starting shit everywhere they go. If there are too many peaceful people laughing together, they're gonna cause a ruckus somewhere in the mix. They hate us to be happy more than they hate to be miserable. It's easy to tell the difference to me, but to us as a collective people, it's not. I see them when they come. When they pull up, I'm like, here go one of these motherfuckers. I
Wow.
already know who they is when they pull up.
Wow.
I can peep their swag a mile away. But we know who they is when we remember who we are. When we don't remember who we are, is the reason why we can't see them for who they are. But for the most part, as children, they gonna be like any other child. It's not until they start developing a personality that they're gonna be sinister.
Mm-hmm.
And they smart as hell, but you won't never know it.
Hey man, Rod, man, I want to thank you once again for coming on the show, brother. This is a show, man. I gotta watch this a couple of times and take notes, man. You was dropping some shit tonight, man.
I appreciate you having me. Hey, you
Indeed.
know, it's a reference book that might help you understand what I'm talking about called Our Mysterious Spaceship Moon.
Hold up, let me write this down. Our mysterious
Spaceship Moon.
spaceship moon. And what's that?
Now that it's actually a two-part book. I remember the author name. That's the title of the book. It's actually got two parts to it.
Mm-hmm.
And they both hard to find. They rare editions.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The moon and the Dark Knight satellite work in conjunction in the holographic universe. Remember that, Michael Tolbert?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
Or
got the
Michael
book.
Talbot.
Michael
Right.
Talbot, yeah. Bobby Hemming put me on that book, yeah.
So when he talking about the light lock, when we talk about the light lock, Pleiadian light lock, we talk about the holographic universe. This is what we talking about.
Uh-huh.
Because you got to have two fixed points to project two opposing images that cross each other in order to formulate a fabric of three-dimensional fixed position reality.
So that's the moon and the Black Knight satellite.
Yeah.
All right, because I'm getting, it's funny. I'm getting ready to interview Billy Carson tomorrow on his documentary Black Knight Satellite. So I'm gonna keep that in mind as I finish watching his documentary tonight. I'm glad that you said that. Damn. So why do you think we don't hear much about the Dark Knight Satellite? We hear about the
That's
moon
because
and
they
all
don't
that.
know a lot about it. It's there. They know it's there. They know it's still emitting the signal. They can't translate what the signal is saying. And they've tried to shoot it down a couple of times, and their missiles got shot down before it even got close. So they left it the fuck alone because whatever was able to shoot the missiles that they shot at it, they didn't want no smoke with them motherfuckers.
Mm.
But
So
I'd have kept shooting that motherfucker till I got it though.
mm,
I'd have shot every goddamn thing we had at that son bitch because it's gonna break the total funk on the mind, the brain lock.
right.
Right? But it'll fuck the people up because all of that shit will come in from multiple lives at one time.
It'll be overload. It'll be overload on us.
Sensory overload. A
Man,
lot of them will malfunction. Some of them will start working at their best, but some of them will malfunction. That's the
shit,
risk of shooting that motherfucker down.
that's gonna happen regardless. The more powerful these solar rays, solar flares get, right?
Right, because what's gonna happen is it's gonna get to a point where the influence that it has, it won't be able to obscure your vision no more. Right? They're using the moon also to work on your latent DNA. They know it's not dead, what they call it junk.
Mm.
It's just latent. It's just not being used, right? Because it's been turned off. If you
Mm.
turn it off, you know how it's going to be turned back on. Nature has a way to turn it back on her own.
Mm.
So they won't turn it on purpose so that they force Mother Nature to do it. Because when Mother Nature do it, she going to follow the process where the least amount of collateral damage comes from it.
Mm. Mm.
So if we follow Mother Nature and follow the steps that she's laying out, that she's showing us in the signs, then we follow the path of least resistance like lightning.
Right, right.
And that's how we slowly raise the consciousness of the people to be able to facilitate higher levels of consciousness. Right? I got to go find reference to tell you what I want to tell you, because if I told you without the references, you wouldn't have never believed me, because I'd have been 3 years old.
Mm.
Right? It just took a long time to accumulate the reference material so I could tell people where to go look to find certain stuff.
Right, right, right.
Right? I could sit here and do a book report on books and tell you about the book, and we could do a whole video on that can last for days.
Damn.
Right? And I won't never have to go to the book. You could pull the book out, flip the page, and find exactly what I'm looking for without me having the book here.
Man, you are an interesting soul, Rod Hayes. One of a kind, truly, brother. You are. I've interviewed many people. You are one of a kind soul. I will say that, my brother. I want you to leave your contact information for those who want to reach out to you.
So right now I'm not doing any sessions till we get Three Kings to walking, because it's really a lot of psychic energy involved in that. But you can find me on Facebook under Rod Hayes. I'm on Instagram under Rod Hayes.75. And at the top of the Rod Hayes page is my Morpheus Mysticus Megas page, where I do my backup videos when I go to Instagram jail. Ain't that something?
Crazy, crazy. And we ended it on the 1111, y'all. We ended it on the 1111.
11,
Family,
11,
thank
22. Raise
indeed,
one.
indeed. We out of here, family. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.
Peace.